Today it is Mob Movie Monday on Tuesday. That's right, American Gangster, one of the greatest movies in this genre of all time, I think. Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese, and today it is Mob Movie Monday on Tuesday. That's right after the holiday weekend, a lot of revelry and how it goes, so we postponed it a day, but we're going to do Mob Movie Monday today. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you had a great New Year's Eve and you just followed it through the weekend, and we're all ready to go into 2021. Hope you're all excited about it. I know I am. It's going to be a better year, guaranteed. American Gangster, one of the greatest movies in this genre of all time, I think. It was a great movie. I think it won 21 awards. It was nominated for 21 awards. And Denzel Washington, brilliant as always. Russell Crowe, brilliant as always. And Josh Brolin was great. The whole cast was great. It was a brilliant movie. Was it very accurate? I don't know. A lot of people had disputes with that. I think Frank Lucas wasn't real happy. The DEA wasn't real happy with the way it was depicted. Neither was some of the law enforcement people. But hey, you know what? Hollywood is there to entertain you. They take dramatic liberty with the film. There's been a TV series done on my life. From what I've read so far, pretty darn accurate. But you know, they could take some dramatic liberty. That's just how it goes. There to entertain, not to inform you so much, but to entertain. But it was a brilliant movie. Who cares, right? You're there to enjoy the film. But let me get into a little bit of the background of the film. You know, it was Harlem back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, where all of this began. And they had a bit of, oh, by the way, you know, I love Armand Assante. He played allegedly the mob guy in this film. Mafia was supposedly involved with Frank Lucas to a degree. We're going to dispel that a little bit. I don't believe that's true from what I know, but we'll get into that. But let me tell you about Harlem. Harlem was a place in New York City where everybody was. Lucky Luciano was there, Genovese was there, the Chin Gigante was there. It was a big Italian stronghold. Fat Tony Salerno, I met him there at his social clubs a number of times. So it was a big stronghold. Even Dutch Schultz, Jewish mob, they were there too. Let me tell you how things started back then. Prohibition was big, and Luciano made a lot of money in Prohibition. So did Dutch Schultz back in the day. When Prohibition ended, I know they went into the numbers business, started to get involved with people on the street. You know what the numbers are all about. And then when that started to, well, never really went away. But then the drug business came into it. And yeah, the Italians were involved. Genovese was involved in that. I think Luciano might have been involved to a degree. Genovese eventually went to prison for it. The Chin Gigante did get involved somewhat during that time. And so there was a lot of stuff happening. Bumpy Johnson got involved early on. He was involved in the numbers business, and then he got involved in drugs in that area too. And he was kind of working with the Italians. They had some kind of a little dispute at that time, but they worked it out. And then eventually Frank Lucas came aboard. And Frank was involved with Bumpy for a while. I don't think his involvement was as much as he said it was. I don't think he was as close to Bumpy as he said he was. I don't think he was around him as long from what I heard and from what I've been told. But he certainly did know him, and he did pick up on the drug business. He was big in narcotics back then. So, you know, that premise obviously was true. A lot of other things went on during that time. You know, the cops were involved. They were on the payroll. So that to a large degree was correct. We were, you know, paying cops for different things back then. So yes, that was correct. Let's get into some of the scenes and some of the things that I think were accurate and some of the things that weren't accurate. Great scene. Oh, let me get to this first. One thing that I know about Frank was that he didn't trust a lot of people. He did bring his family up from Carolina. He did have them involved in the business with him to a great degree. He was surrounded by his family, his brothers, his mom, so on and so forth. And they kept him, he kept them rather very close. One scene there that was terrific, and that was the scene when he killed the other drug dealer, Tango. And it was great. He was sitting down in a restaurant, and he was talking to his kin, his brothers, and then he sees Tango, and he gets up and he starts to walk over to Tango, who's on the street doing some stuff, talking to some people. And just before he leaves, he says to his brothers, "You're either somebody or you're nobody. And he goes up to Tango. He has a little bit of a discussion with him. Tango's supposed to give him some money. Tango makes a joke. Frank pulls out his pistol, shoots him in the head right there in front of everybody. He goes down. Now, was that a real scene? You know, I believe it was. Frank Lucas originally admitted that it was, and then he later recanted that. He never went to prison for it, never got indicted, never got charged with it. But I do think that really happened somewhat in a way. Maybe his family wasn't there, but I think that scene really happened. It's a great scene. You know, another one, another scene in there that's in dispute. He went over to Southeast Asia, not in dispute, and he was buying drugs directly from Southeast Asia because he didn't want to deal with the Italian guys at the time. And he brought something over. He labeled it Blue Magic, but he claimed that he got involved with the military, which I do think is true, and he was putting the drugs in the coffins of some of the deceased military men that were brought back to the States. That's in dispute. They said later on, the guy by the name of Ike, that Lucas made the deal with, said that never really happened, that the drugs were smuggled in pallets underneath the coffins. So who knows what was real, what was not real. And then later on, Ike even said that wasn't even true, that he really brought it over in some furniture. So who knows? But the bottom line is they were smuggling the drugs over from Southeast Asia here into the United States. Whatever way they did it, it was cleverly done. And they certainly got it here again, labeled Blue Magic. Another scene with Nikki Barnes. Now, I don't believe Nikki Barnes and Frank Lucas were competitors at the time. They were kind of at different times. They were both selling drugs there, obviously. They both became informants. They had that in common. But I don't think they were competing at the time. So the scene in the nightclub where Frank Lucas allegedly calls Nikki Barnes out because he was using the name Blue Magic, which Frank said was his trademark. You know, he had it and he wasn't supposed to be doing it. I don't believe that ever happened. But again, dramatic liberty. It was a great scene, worked well, but I don't think that ever happened. I think they met each other at some point in time, but they weren't competitors in the drug business. The corrupt cops, Josh Brolin led that crew of corrupt cops. They were getting paid, shaking down the drug dealers. Absolutely, that was a fact. I heard that from many of my associates that were at the time doing business in Harlem. Fat Tony used to talk about the cops that were being paid off. A lot of the guys did. My father told me stories about that. So there was no question that cops were on the payroll from the guys dealing drugs back at that point in time. Josh Brolin, like I said, he did a great job at that time. I thought he was great. And then there was the cop played by Russell Crowe, who was the legitimate guy. And he was really looking to take Frank Lucas down. There's a scene there where Russell Crowe is with his supervisor, and he's explaining to him that Frank Lucas is the real big drug dealer, even more than the Italians. And his supervisor didn't want to buy it. He said, no, if the mafia is not involved, you're crazy. There's no real drug dealer in Frank Lucas. And it was a great scene, but the Russell Crowe character happened to be right. Lucas was dealing drugs, obviously on a very high level. Another great scene. So what happened? He had a pretty good run, but at the end of the day, the Russell Crowe character, the cops, they really did bring him down. They were investigating him for quite some time. He did get indicted. He did get convicted for heroin smuggling. He ended up with a 70-year prison sentence, 70 years. He later became an informant. I think he took down about 100 guys, a lot of people, a lot of the cops rather that were on the payroll. He took them down. The interesting thing that not one Italian went down, as far as I know. I never heard of any Italians going down as a result of Frank Lucas' testimony. So, he wasn't involved with them to a great degree because why wouldn't he take them down? So a lot of that you saw in there, the Armand Assante character, who, I love from past videos, I love Armand Assante. I think that was more fabricated than real in the story because, again, Lucas took no Italians down during that whole thing, as far as I know and as far as I was told at the time. But another interesting thing that I don't think came out in the film is Frank Lucas' wife also went to prison. She was convicted and got a 5-year prison sentence for being involved with Lucas in the drug business. And so, it all collapsed. An interesting thing, I remember one scene that kind of hit home with me when Frank was walking out of the church. And that's where he got arrested. The Russell Crowe character is waiting for him there. And it takes me back to when I got my parole violation. I happened to be walking out of a bank in Brentwood, California. And I was surrounded by about 15 agents, and they arrested me there on a parole violation. Embarrassing situation. They went into the bank and they leaned on my bank. You would have thought I was robbing the bank the way they came down on me, put me in a paddy wagon. So, as soon as I saw that scene, I kind of related to that. So basically that was it. But I really encourage you, watch that movie, American Gangster. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. And also the Netflix show, Godfather of Harlem, about Bumpy Johnson, was a great movie, and they're related in some way. So a great TV series, I should say, on Netflix. So I would encourage you to watch them both. That's about it. But what's the moral of the story? Every one of these guys, they go down, no matter what business you're in, the drug business, the numbers business, racketeering laws, whatever it is. If you choose to do that in your life, you're going down. That's it. Nikki Barnes went down, became an informant later on. Bumpy Johnson died at a young age. I think he died of a heart attack and he was in his 60s, but he did a lot of time in prison. He did time in Alcatraz. So, no matter what you do, you get involved in criminal conduct, you're going to go down. I leave you with this, people. And I say this to the young people all the time. Life is tough enough when everything is good. You've just experienced that through all of this 2020 with COVID. You're doing well, you're in business, you own a restaurant, you're in an employment, and all of a sudden what happens? Something hits us out of the blue like COVID. We lose a loved one, we lose our business, things collapse. When everything is going right, life could be very tough. When you do the wrong thing, you get involved in criminal activity and you put more baggage on your shoulders to carry around, this life becomes so much more difficult. So I'm telling you now, play it straight. Take it from me. I did the hard time. I've been on the streets. I've been extremely fortunate and very blessed to be where I am today. So I encourage you all always to do the right thing. You'll end up on the right side. So that's it. Thank you all very much. We're going to be back again with another video this week. I appreciate all the encouragement that we're getting. We're up to 330,000 subscribers. Thank you all very much. Stay tuned for the next YouTube. We keep them coming. And MichaelFranzese.com. You want to be encouraged? You want to be part of the crew and the community? We encourage you to join. That's it for today. And how do I leave you all the time? Be safe. Be healthy. God bless. I will see you next time.